For those of you who would like to have a good quality banjo but haven't got a lot of money, here are two project banjos that are the result of some serendipity, because I got the necks very cheaply, and a fair amount of work on my part and on the part of First Quality Musical Instruments in Louisville. The one on the left is a TB-7 project, which is a result of an original TB-7 neck that was given to me by a very good friend of mine, and First Quality parts. This is a good representation of the TB-7 top tension banjo. It has all reproduction parts, or original parts, or OEM parts from the 90s when they put out 5 strings in this configuration. Right now I have a standard resonator on it, but I also have an OEM, a 90s resonator of the top tension type, which is a solid back that's been carved out. You'll notice that I have instead of the 4-hump tailpiece, I have a 2-hump tailpiece, and the rim is made from a 1935 Oriole banjo, which is a shoe and bracket banjo, but it's in a 30s rim, which makes all the difference in the sound. I have a Huber head on it, and one of my custom bridges that I built for Irish tenor banjo. It's the banjo on the right is one that I just made up from a pot that was sold to me by another good friend of mine, and the neck I bought from Vernunzio's for a very low price, because they probably because they couldn't get rid of it. It comes with the original 2-tab tuners on it. Now this is probably the key to the whole process of building your own banjo, in that you can get good vintage necks and sometimes other parts, but usually the necks from a Gibson Style banjo or a Gibson banjo relatively cheaply, because those necks are basically being thrown away or being priced at a very low price because nobody wants them. You can do this with other styles of banjos too, but usually you're going to have a harder time finding the parts. And the beauty of the Gibson design is that it's just assembled parts. It's just sort of like McDonald's chicken McNuggets, and it's parts is parts. And those parts are very available, both used and new. As you can see, both of these banjos have Gibson parts to it. Now we'll go in a little bit on the necks here. On the TB-7, this is an original neck with without the original Kluxons on it. You can just this one's probably from 1938. It has a 38 design. That noise in the background is my dog checking out the banjos. And then these are the Greg Boyd and First Quality, most likely Prussian-made parts that are the exact or near exact replicas of the 1937-1941 top tension banjo. Now we'll focus more on the right. This is a TB-00 neck, which is interestingly enough the same dates as the TB-7 neck, only this was a banjo that cost $27.50. So it was the low end of the line. The TB-7 is the TB-18 actually is the high end of the line, all gold, but they were basically the same as the TB-12 and TB-7 with somewhat different materials, but the design was the same. This comes with original tuners. It's a one-piece flange neck. The neck's been used somewhat, but it has all the original frets on it. It could use a fret job in another 5 years or so. I mated it with a pot that's not a Gibson pot, It's a modern pot, and all these parts are modern, including the tailpiece. You'll notice that I have Fulch tailpieces on both of these banjos. Or excuse me, on this banjo alone. Excuse me. I have another banjo that I made up that has a Fulch tenor tailpiece that he made as an experiment and then sold to me. This is the Cumberland tailpiece. It's a very solid tailpiece, and it works very well with this banjo. Those little grommets are there just to keep the wolf tones away. Now here are the backs of the same banjos. As I mentioned before, the TB-7 project has a standard resonator instead of the carved resonator that's unique to the TB-7, TB-12, TB-18 series. And I happen to like the sound a little bit better for Irish tenor banjo. The neck is a straight maple neck. As you went to the TB-12 and the TB-18, you got a fancier neck, either walnut or maple. This has Goto tuners on it with the antiqued buttons on it. The other banjo, the TB-00, I said TB-0 before, but it's actually TB-00 because it's even cheaper than the TB-0, has the original 2-tab tuners on it. And because I got this banjo so cheap, I basically got the neck for $25, and the tuners are worth some money. This actually has a nicer piece of wood in it, because in those days they were making very few banjos, and they just took whatever piece of wood they had. Sometimes you'll see these very cheap banjos with wonderful wood in them. This has a little bit of figuring in it. And it's mated to this pot, which is, as I mentioned before, is a modern pot. This is probably a Chinese resonator, but it's a very nice looking one. And I had to fit, when I fit the neck on the TB-00, I had to shim it a little bit in order to get the angle that I wanted. But basically it was a fairly straightforward fix. It probably took me about 15 hours to get it just right. This is the TB-7 project. I've got a sunken wood birch probably bridge on here that my next door neighbor's in the furniture business, and he had a piece he gave me. It was set up originally by Cliff Fitch, who's no longer in the banjo business, but he was a meticulous workman, did great work. And I'm forever appreciative of what he did and what he showed me. Now, this is a very nice banjo, and I'm told this is typical of the TB-7 sound. I have some friends with original RB-7s who were telling me that this sounds very much like their banjos, and that they've seen the tenor banjos, and they're happy that I've got an instrument that sounds so good. I've got it set up the way I set up all my Irish tenor banjos, for a lot of sustain, which is actually verboten for the 5-string players, but it's a but when it rings out like that, it sounds pretty good. Next, I'm going to show you the TB-00. this is my TB double lot project. I just basically got it put together, and there's still a lot of tweaking to do. On it I have a fairly heavy Sapele and Purple Heart bridge that I made up. And I deliberately took this bridge because this pot has a little more harsh sound than the previous pot. Probably because it's newer, and because the chamber size needs to be tweaked. I need to get that Helmholtz chamber just right, and a lot of other little things. This tailpiece I really like because it's absolutely solid, it's not going anywhere. And I also have a heavier set of strings on it than I've had on my previous banjo. These are 46s. Normally I think I should put a 42s on there. This just happened to be what's available. This banjo also has a slightly shorter scale than the other banjo. And I'm not sure why they made two different scale necks, but this is Gibson. They could do almost anything. But it's got an ebony nut. I was thinking of putting in one of the new Gold Tone Pro Glide nuts in there, which essentially gives you a 0 fret where the nut is. And we'll play around with this and find out. But it's very playable. The action's nice. It's got a truss rod in the neck. It's really a nice little banjo. So these are the banjos that if you really don't want to put out a lot of money to get a new banjo or a good vintage banjo, if you get the Gibson style neck somewhere, if you're lucky to find one cheaply, you can build yourself a banjo that's very playable. It can sound very good because there's a lot of tweaking you can do with Gibson style banjos, and lots known about these banjos. And I think you'll be very satisfied in the long run with a banjo like this.